on to item 7.
Mr. Chairman, I move we transfer the remaining benefit of the tax incentive program for Winston Hospitality to Emerald Hospitality Association.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there anybody here from the Economic Development Commission? Please come talk with us.
Thank you for that invitation. Good evening. Joe Mira from an EDC. Again, I'm here on behalf of the EDC to support this transfer of the May 2014 tax incentive agreement granted on the 1181 Barnes Road property. We had a presentation from two execs from the new company, Emeralds, and just from the review and some investigation I've done recently, we're getting a good company. Company that's been around since 1999. They spend much time and effort in training their staff for a high level of service for their guests. And that's a word that they used on their presentation, guest. And the only reason I emphasize it is words matter to me. And when you look at customers or clients as guests, you're saying a lot. They value their business. They value the communities that they serve, so much so that the founder and CEO has started a private foundation that gives back to the communities of the hotels that they serve in. This is an ongoing effort on behalf of the CEO. We have two of their execs in the audience this evening. The company is looking to invest substantial amount of money in improvements to maintain the Hilton Gardens name. Hilton Gardens, again, from a business point of view, is very important to keep. It's a good flag hotel for the community. It says a lot about the community that they're servicing. These are hotels that people that the business community travels to, looks for. People that show when they visit the area, it says a lot about the community. And the hotel itself has really been a multiplier and boosting Wallingford's economic development. The people that come to that hotel shop in our downtown stores. They go to the restaurants, the theaters. They become part of the community. So this is an investment well worth extending. It was agreed on in May of, I guess, as I said, 2014. Did you have any other questions?
So this was a 7-year agreement, and we've sent the bills out on year 4, and so we would have 3 years left.
Yeah, we're looking just to extend it to 3 years. We're not looking for any more and any less. And again, I should mention, I didn't close this properly. After their presentation, the commission discussed this, and there was a unanimous vote to bring it before you to ask you to extend it just to 3 years.
Right, and within the contract, there are 2 challenges that the buyer faces. Paragraph 5 says that the agreement is conditioned on Mr. Robert W. Winston III remaining the managing member or partner of CT Wallingford LLC during the term of this agreement. And paragraph 9 says this agreement shall not be assigned. So you basically need the council to agree to waive those 2 provisions to give this tax forgiveness agreement another 3 years.
And again, I can't speak for the council because although I was there when the vote took place, but I believe the reason for that was that the council wanted the opportunity to see the new buyer, if there was one, before they gave an incentive program, if that turned into a, not to mention any other hotels, but I think that's what it was. You wanted to maintain the quality of the property, and you're having that plus with the new management firm.
And so I think you've told us that the buyers are here with us today.
Yes.
Well, I think since they've made the trip, perhaps we could come forward, they could come forward and we can meet them.
Sure.
I'd invite you to sit at the table. I think you might be there for a little while. If you could please introduce yourselves to us for the record.
My name's Jim Garish. I'm the CEO of Emerald Hospitality.
Art Borowski, Chief Financial Officer, Emerald Hospitality.
Well, thank you for coming, and thank you for your interest in Wallingford. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourselves as a business?
Yes, we've been in business now for over 20 years, and our business model is to work with local communities and to work with small investors. We represent a group of small investors on different hotel acquisition and development projects. And this is a prime example. We have a group that is acquiring this hotel. It'll be our 10th Hilton Garden Inn, and our business model also focuses on enhancing the experience and training for our associates, the employees of the hotel, as well as being an active member in the local community. We hold on to the hotels and we manage them well. Hilton Garden Inn, this will be our 10th Hilton Garden Inn. We have a good relationship with Hilton. We want to improve the quality and the service to our guests at this hotel. We're going to be investing, we have a plan that requires over $1 million to maintain the Hilton Garden Inn flag. And we obviously, our 10th Hilton Garden Inn in various parts of the country, we know what's required and we want to accept that responsibility. And the other thing that was in that agreement that I don't remember who brought it up, if it was us or the Economic Development Council members, but this is only a transfer. We don't want anything beyond. We just wanted to be treated fairly as this agreement was. We don't want it, we're not looking for anything new, and we also want to have a stipulation that, which is easy for us because that's what we do, that we will maintain ownership in this hotel for the balance of the 3 years, and of course beyond that. But that was another provision that was approved.
Okay. What attracts you to our town?
Well, I actually lived in Enfield, Connecticut a long time in my youth, and we built a hotel up there, and now we moved to Westlake, and I'm excited about being back here. This hotel, it's a Hilton Garden Inn. We think it's underperforming, obviously, because we're investing in it, so we think we have a good business model that will improve, again, as I said, the training and almost all of our people, particularly in our industry, but with our company, start out and advance their careers. I started out when I was 14 years old and advanced, and we take that very seriously about providing opportunities for our young people. Work within the community. My wife and I started a private foundation to give back to the communities that we're part of, and we're looking forward to do that through the Emerald Foundation. And you know, it's an exciting opportunity, and hopefully, maybe even if things work out, try and build another hotel.
Okay. And what do you expect to happen to the current staff who are employed there now?
I can, to answer that specific question, number one, our intent is absolutely to continue all employment. All the associates have been rehired by Emerald Hospitality. You know, the full-time equivalent, we want to keep that. We do see some opportunities in food and beverage. So that was part of our discussion with the EDC as well, is that, you know, the growth potential we see is on the food and beverage side in operations of the hotel as well. But to reaffirm to the council, we absolutely are looking to retain the team here. To answer, even going back one question beforehand, of our 27 properties, almost all of them are located in similar towns like this, and in smaller markets. We aren't Manhattan developers, we're out of the Midwest, and we pride ourselves on the fact that we get ingrained in communities. I have handouts, happy to hand them out, but part of our discussion with the EDC was that we have many hotels going back to the early 2000s. So there are different models that developers use for hotels. Our model is, as an operator, we look to get ingrained in the community and stay in the community a long time.
Thank you. Questions from other councilors? Councilor LeTourneau.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the transfer or the deal has been brokered already. You own the hotel as of right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when did
We
that?
closed on that last?
June 18th, last Tuesday.
Last Tuesday you closed on it? Okay. You know, going back to this agreement, there was a lot of discussion about this when we brokered the deal with Mr. Winston. And he came before us at that time and explained to us, the council, that he was looking for this deal to be able to get better financing. It was going to help him with his financing. And we were at that time looking at an eyesore out there. It was a derelict building. And so all the pieces kind of fit. We agreed to this, and there was, like I said, there was a lot of discussion on this. It wasn't just a quick pass. I can remember we spent hours up here talking about this. And, you know, here we are, a new owner, and we have, which was brought up earlier, I have it on page 3, and it's item 8. And it says, however, Connecticut Wallingford LLC may transfer the property without penalty to any entity that is its successor in interest, provided Robert W. Winston III is the managing member of the successor entity, which he is not. Am I correct? Correct. Okay. So, you know, it's a considerable amount of money. The estimation that I came up with is around $350,000 for the next 3 years. And, you know, we reluctantly give tax breaks to new businesses coming to town. I can remember years ago the considerable nights of discussion when Bristol Myers was coming to give them a tax break. And then I go back to this document, like I said earlier, this was not done in one meeting. It took quite a few meetings and quite a few back and forth before we came up with an agreement. So, you know, to keep to the faith of the agreement, I would like us to do that and not honor this moving forward to the next entity, to these gentlemen. I'm sure you're going to do a fantastic job out there. I have no doubts about that. You're a good, viable company, and I'm sure you're going to make good contributions to the town, and the town likewise will make good contributions to your business through having people stay out there and just become good neighbors. But I can't, in good conscience, approve this for $350,000 just because you're good guys. I know you're good guys, but it's just it's taxpayer money, and we got a chance to get some back. And the deal is the deal. It's written here. The deal is the deal. The other concern I have is, what is this going to do to future agreements? Knowing we can make an agreement, but we could change it at any given time. We could pass it along. So why have an agreement with verbiage like this if you're just going to go and change it just because? So I will be voting no on this tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Fishbein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, you guys, you seem like very nice gentlemen. I'm floored that, and I'm a lawyer, wears polo shirts every once in a while, that I would never let a client close this transaction, knowing that this thing is out there. Contract would have been contingent upon there being transfer of. I gotta tell you, I think I was the one person who voted against this originally, so I come to the table, you know, with that aspect. But I gotta tell you, part of the reason why the Winston language was in there was because of the many representations that were made by Mr. Winston and on behalf of him. You know, one of which was employment of people from the general area, which, you know, I've utilized the hotel. I've been to events at the hotel. I have clients that come into town, stay at the hotel. You know, so I'm very aware of what's there. I don't know that anybody has gone back to see about those percentages. You know, it was a representation of 75 to 80% of the employees would be from the general area. I don't want to vote against this, quite frankly, but I think I have to. And I leave it up to you guys, you know, why your legal team, which I'm aware of your hotel and, you know, across the country and stuff like that. Tell me why I should. You know, why should I approve this, please?
Well, you know, I very much respect the opinions that are offered, and you know, there's a lot of moving parts in a transaction, and it's our philosophy to, you know, we have responsibility to our small investors to follow through on this, and we have a responsibility to the sellers to continue through. We've thought about maybe putting in a provision as you suggest, and we were encouraged by the vote of the Economic Development Council, and we felt that it was a transfer. It's not something new. We're not seeking anything new. The hotel is going to increase in value. Hopefully, if we do a good job, we're going to be investing well over $1 million of new money to increase the taxable base of the property. And we felt it was the right thing to do, to request this. You know, we gave some consideration where we haven't said, you know, we probably, you know, after the fact, it's hard to come in and ask for a renewal, for a continuation or transfer. But I would say, with all due respect to the seller, you know, we know that they operated this hotel in a different fashion than we did. You know, we know from the current employees that they didn't have representatives even visit this hotel for well over a year. And we have a business model that we provide support. We'll be having people in and out of here every month to make sure that the quality improves. And we invest heavily in, again, our training in the local community and into seeing this to be a good project. We just asked to be, I hate to use the word treated fairly because fairly is everybody's own opinion, but it's something that was approved, it was put in place. It was voted on by the Economic Development Council. Yeah, it's easy for us to say because we're here before you, just like Mr. Winston was. I just would hope that you'll hold us to a higher standard. We'll make sure that we're going to follow through and do what we say we're going to do. And I don't know if that answers your question, but...
Well, no, I appreciate the candor. And part of the problem here is having benchmarks that can be checked to make sure, you know, because I know, you know, I'm part of a legal team. I have lawyers that come to Connecticut from all over the country on a monthly basis, and they usually stay at the Homewood Suites. And it's been full, and there's been plenty of times that the Hilton Garden Inn has been full also. So I know, you know, they at least up until recently are generating some business, but I'm looking at the transaction itself, and if I was on the other side of this, let's say representing the seller, and the buyer said, well, we need more time to get this approval, I probably would have said to you, okay, well, I'll give you, you know, 80 cents on the dollar instead of, or only charge you that for the transaction. So, you know, an aspect of this is, how do I know that in the number that you paid for this hotel, that lack of transfer isn't baked into that sale number also. I don't, and it's not my due diligence to do. But that's all
I should
part
have
of
had you
this.
as one of our attorneys, I guess, because we didn't think of some of those things, and shame on us. You know, we're very much counting on this before we close. And I don't want to, it's our responsibility, so I don't in any way defer to the vote by the Economic Development Council, but we were encouraged by that, and we were encouraged to continue on our own behalf, not by them, to follow through on behalf of our investors. As Mr. LeTourneau said, we're going to do a good job whether this gets voted down or not. That's just in our DNA. Will it make it more difficult? Yeah, sure, but we'll find a way to do it. I don't regret moving forward with this. So many things happen, and we really like the opportunity to be in Connecticut. We like the opportunity to be in Wallingford. We like the opportunity to get this additional Hilton Garden Inn, and it's just something that we felt we needed to pursue. Should we have played hardball? I think we tried to do that with the seller, and he didn't have any interest. He had no motivation. He made his money and moved on, and God bless him.
And if I may just, one additional point really for both of you, because just to reaffirm what Jim mentioned, the hotel, the Hilton Garden Inn brand, the franchise with Hilton was initially for 20-year period, and that's what Mr. Winston executed. That's what he opened the hotel on. There is approximately 16 years left, and if Mr. Winston had retained ownership for another 3 years through the term of this agreement, there would not have been a requirement to do these renovations. However, because of the purchase and because of the 16-year license being awarded to Emerald and our investors, this $1 million is a real number. This is a real number that has to be invested, and essentially the personal property value is going to go up because this money is going to be put back into it. So when we looked at this as a business decision, the fact of the matter is, as you said, it is $350,000, but we also looked at it as it's worth that investment to the city council, because now instead of the hotel continuing to operate as is without any requirements to renovate, you're going to basically get a refresh and a renovation after 4 years, and you're going to have long-term owners that are going to be dedicated to continue to put money into it.
And the fourth year of that's our responsibility, and it's 3 more years, so it's really that amount of money over a 4-year period. So it's not all in 1 year.
And it is a step up too. Again, I know it's a large amount of sum. We're not going to sit here before we tell you it's not, but that remaining 3 years is a step up provision where, it's a lot more in the first year while we renovate, less in the second year, and the third year gets much closer to the full value. And then of course you're at full value after that.
I understand. I thank you for the responses, and I think there's another hotel going in right next door, so it'll be an interesting little intersection. So, but thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly. Councilor Zandri?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, gentlemen. So, a couple of my questions were already answered about the purchase already being done and the existing staff. Do you know how many full-time employees you currently have today?
There's approximately 35 full-timers, and there's approximately 25 part-time. The part-time fluctuates based on seasonality, a little bit in food and beverage.
And do you have any open recs that you're in the process of filling, and if so, approximately how many? Open head count.
Not at this time. Truthfully, the sale happened a week ago, and again, to answer really both your questions about the team lives here. We're based out of Cleveland. We have offices in Maine and Florida, but we're not looking to bring Cleveland folks to run this hotel. This is going to be a locally based run hotel. All the team was rehired.
And you've implied that there might be some growth in the food and beverage portion, so there might be some future to add on. And you may not have the answer to this question entirely, but are there outside services that you employ, like landscaping, other things that, not necessarily the construction piece, but maybe ongoing operation and maintenance? Do you hire services like that, laundry, things of that nature, outsource, or you do it all on site?
No, it's a fantastic question. The laundry for the guest rooms is done in-house, so we do have our team members, our associates that perform that. But with any of the exterior services like landscape, like snow plow, security, monitoring of the alarms, what have you, those are all outsourced to local companies and you know, from local businesses. But our team, essentially from the guest experience, our team at the hotel takes care of the majority of the in-house items for the guests.
And you identified approximately $1 million in property amenity improvements. Can you briefly outline what some of those might be?
Of course, and some of them are going to be much quicker than others. For those of you, forgive me because hotel nerd, but for those of you that have been at the Hilton Garden Inn, the Hilton Garden Inn lobby is very similar. It's been their staple for many, many years. As you enter in, they have a front desk, a restaurant off to the right with a bar, and a sweet shop, the market. We're going to open up that market, make it much more attractive to guests. There's going to be some cosmetic refinishes in the lobby space that have to be finished. A fire pit in the exterior that wasn't put in originally. And then the plan calls for renovations to the guest rooms. So new carpet, new wall vinyl in the bathrooms, wall vinyl in the corridors, carpet in the corridors. Those are all things outlined by Hilton specifically that we would have to do over the next 2 to 3 years. Some we're going to do immediately, and some of them we're going to just do based on seasonality. So we would look to start sooner.
Mr. Mira, if I may, can you just refresh my memory on how many members of the EDC, because you said this was a unanimous vote, so how many members are there again for the EDC?
There's 6, I think there was 7.
And you all unanimous, so 7 of you
We
were
had
present?
basically the same discussion. The only thing I would like to add to kind of balance this out a little bit is that I know you're talking about 350, but that's not the real number. Had this gone through EDC at the time, we had a incentive program for hotels that this would have been under, and there would have not been this clause. So they would have had the other 3 years had it been EDC. So for whatever reasons went down at the time, your incentive package superseded ours. So this is where we are today. And again, I could only believe that Winston headlines that we're talking about basically is because we were concerned, I'm hoping that the council was concerned, that it would stay the quality that we were looking for. Now, there may have been some shortcomings of what he did or didn't do, but the town did get the hotel. We've seen the multipliers already kick in throughout the stores and the businesses. This company's going to invest $1 million. So again, if you take what they would have had if EDC's incentive program that was like, they would still be open for $175,000. That would have been theirs. So you deduct that from the 350, you add the $1 million plus investment, and you're almost coming to a wash. I mean, in all honesty. And you can't sell short. I mean, we all consumers. You cannot sell short in this economy service. This company, and this is one of the things that I really respect, they came in with a training program, okay? That's important because that's going to reflect the area. You're going to have the visitors from Choate staying at that hotel. They're going to see the difference. They're going to walk away from Wallingford with a pleasant experience. And God only knows how much that will do for other businesses moving to town. I mean, we just can't take things and take for exception. So I guess 2 points I'd like to point out is that, yes, there is a 3-year extension that we're looking for that's there. That was the easy way to do it. Or if you wanted to retroact that back to the EDCs and give them the 175 minus or add on whatever the tax difference is between the $1 million. I don't know if we want to do all that math, but you know, it's worth the exercise if we wanted to do it. But in all honesty, we're talking about a 3-year investment. We're talking about 166 this year, 100 next year, and 84 the exit year. You know, in all honesty, this was already if you think about it, baked into the town's budget. And I don't know, to me, and this is only myself speaking, in fair play, you know I'm not one here, I mean, to give away the town money is not something that I do. We look to increase the benefits. I'm disappointed more times than any with the deals that don't get closed, but here we got a deal that is closed. We have a deal where people took good faith in a vote that they considered possibly the way things would work out. As businessmen, they have to take it one way or the other. But again, what I'm trying to reinforce here is that there would have been another 3 years on the EDC's incentive package. So, I mean, we're not looking at the 350. We're really not.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And that actually goes along with where I was trying to go towards the end. This is the way that I'm trying to look at this. The way that I'm trying to look at this is we could have maybe way at the start of this not had made the deal originally with Mr. Winston and his group. And maybe that thing would have sat out there and been an eyesore for 10 years. We would have fined them because they would have been in violation of the rules. But we did make this deal. And much to Mr. Muir's points, we've already kind of baked this in. We passed it with that group. We put in stipulations because we didn't want it to be something that was just sold off and set the tone for other things. But we've already kind of made the assumption that we weren't going to get this 166 this year, the 103 next year, and the 84,000 in the final year. The other way to look at this as well is if the Winston Group kept this, they would not likely have spent the $1 million that they're committing to spend. 16 years of $1 million differential spend at today's mill rate, forgetting the fact that it goes up every single year, is $384,000, rough math. So the money's going to come back to the town anyway. We've already got this agreement in place. If they hadn't bought it, it would have been granted through 3 years anyhow. I think that given the fact that this is something that, and it's not really an extension per se, they're not asking for something more. They're asking for something that's in existence already, and could we just continue it? I would really like to find it up here, the ability to support that, mainly because we've already hashed it out. We got what we wanted, which was the place cleaned up, operational and functional, and we're getting something even more now. Now we're getting that they're going to add more improvements to it. And they're going to do it anyway. We could sit up here and say, no, we want to recover the $354,000, and then the EDC will probably come back and maybe offer them the differential if they can do it. Since we already did it, since we already committed to it, and it's the same piece of property, different owner, I don't see why we couldn't do it. So, I mean, I'm going to support it, and I hope there's enough support up here for it as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly. To further your point about the condition of the property and who we would have been fining, at the time that Winston bought it, it was in foreclosure. So, Councilor Testa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, gentlemen. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And EDC, thank you. My first point would be, I myself at times tend to, hold the EDC's feet to the fire. I ask pointed questions. Sometimes I can be, I don't want to say a harsh critic, because I'm a big fan, but at the same time, I'm always calling them out, saying, okay, what's going on? And so I don't go along with everything they say or do just because I think they're wonderful. Maybe I had to preclude that, but having said that, as a rule, we as a council, we as a town and administration, on a regular basis, are lauding the activities of the EDC and their employee. We're seeing positive results on an ongoing basis. We are putting, in effect, we are putting a lot of trust into their work, into their opinions. Putting a lot of trust into their opinions. Just as we have to put faith in all different departments of the town, we approve things for the police, for the fire, for everybody else, because the professionals have come to us and said, this is what we think we really need. Well, we've got a group of professionals that has grown and has proven themselves pretty good at what they do. Honestly, The only reason they don't do more is probably because we don't give enough money to do more. And here, all of them have come together and presented something to us that they think is a good idea. So we can't pat them on the back all the time sometimes, and then just, discard their advice on something when we might have a little bit of a problem with it. We can, of course, but I mean, that's not really very reasonable. Having said that, I think back to why we originally approved this plan. And it was fairly simple. We were tired of seeing that Hulk. We were skeptical that anything was ever going to happen. We needed to get really comfortable with Mr. Winston, and he was a charming gentleman, a good businessman, and he made a very good case. But our primary concern was that he did what he said he was going to do. That's all we cared about. We wanted to see that that building was completed, that the project was completed, that it wasn't a couple of years in, fly by night, and he leaves, next thing you know, it's boarded up. That was what our concern was. So we put a lot of conditions in here. Yeah, there's a couple in there that say, if Mr. Winston is not a part of this, then this agreement, doesn't necessarily hold. Notice the language says we may continue it, but we'd have to approve a change, which is why we're here now. But our intent, or the desires we had when we did this have been fulfilled. There is a ongoing operation there, and everything we wanted happened. And it's still happening. This tax agreement, as far as I'm concerned, was a part of the project. It was a part of the financial package that these gentlemen bought. So in effect, the justification for agreeing to allow this tax arrangement to transfer to them with the project, along with the other bills and all the other debts that it might have, it's part of the financial package. The justification is the same. We want to see this project continue and in fact flourish. And they've come to us and said, in fact, we're going to be investing money so that actually happens. We're going to try to really up the game a little bit to make sure the Hilton Garden brand is maintained. So they're kind of here with the same argument Mr. Winston had. I'm going to, keep this thing going, make this thing happen, get it up to this level, hire good people, be a good member of the community, and we're going to invest some money in that. And we would say, all right, that justifies the town partnership with you and allowing you to do this. And remember, somebody brought up that his main another justification was he needed this in order to secure his financing. Well, the spirit of this is the same. Somebody's invested in this property, and this little package here was a part of that. Now, we can go and play fine print hardball and say no, or we can honor the spirit of the agreement in the first place and be the kind of community that wants to be welcoming to businesses and say, yeah, come on in. That's how I look at this. We're not giving anything away. This agreement was already in place. We expected that this project would generate X number of dollars over the first 7 years. That's not going to change. In fact, there's an ownership change. Is not going to have any bearing on it. In fact, it may actually improve the situation. So that's not a justification to say no. I have a question. How much will you be paying in taxes? We've got here what you're going to be saving. What do you mean the values?
Those are the fair market values.
Right, those are the values. But in hindsight, it would have been a nice idea to say this is the amount of tax dollars that they will be paying, not just the ones they're going to be saving. If we say they're going to save 166 in 1 year and 84 in another, well, that tells me they're going to be paying me 84 in that third year. How much overall?
Let me preface this.
Yeah.
I am not an accountant, nor do I play one on.
It's all right.
From reading the document here, it looks like they're paying $299,000 a year in taxes,
Okay?
okay? And that's consistent, if I'm understanding this right,
Okay. And
consistent.
that'll vary a little bit, but we said we're holding,
Well,
we were
not only
holding,
that, the other thing
we were
you gotta-
fixing the value for X number of years.
The other thing you gotta factor in, and again, I don't wanna keep beating it up, but they're putting another $1 million in, so this 299 is gonna go up. So, you know what I'm saying?
No, I understand that. I mean, that's not a tit for tat, that's not a guarantee, so, but it's good to know.
Yeah.
What that tells me, that gives me comfort in reassuring me that we're following the spirit of this agreement in the first place. They're here to invest more money, keep the level of this place up. You know, I don't lightly give away anything, but we are in a position where any business that wants to come to town right now is an advantage to us, or wants to come and continue to be with us. We're in a tight position. Anything we can do to show that Wallingford is not just welcoming, but reasonable, is a good thing. It's not naive.
That's important.
I do have to say I should be able to close my eyes, because when I see someone laughing in my face when I'm talking, I'm telling you it's rude. It's very rude. If you think I'm stupid, then just write me a note, tell me I'm stupid, but don't laugh in my face. Okay, I've made my case. Thank you very much.
Certainly, Mayor.
Just a clarification, Joe, does that include the personal property or is that real estate only?
I think it's just real estate.
There may be a personal property component as well.
Sorry, Joe. There is, and again, this is only the real estate tax portion. The personal property continues on, and that is not affected at all. That's going to continue to actually grow with the investment.
Thank you. Councilor Laffin?
Thank you. I want to thank the EDC as well for their work, and I want to agree with Councilor Zandri, and especially a lot of what Councilor Tester just said, so I will be saying less, because a lot of what I wrote down is there. So everybody thank Vinny. The incentive, as Councilor LeTourneau stated, was to assist with financing. And as Councilor Testa so adequately explained, I really view this incentive baked into that deal, into that financing. And so Councilor Fishbein, and everything he said was correct. Maybe it would have behooved you to have it a condition and all that other stuff. But I also get where you're coming from. I get where it would make sense or it would be fair. I do feel that the incentive is baked in. Now, did Winston build in a bonus for himself, taking that into consideration and run off with the money? Maybe, I don't know. But I'm not looking to stick it to you guys or grab an advantage over you based on the black and white text that we have an opportunity to duck out and snag that incentive away from the property. Because what we really wanted was that eyesore to be fixed, and it was. And now it's going to be updated, as we're being told, and enhanced again. One important question that my children want to know, though, is the hot tub going to be replaced? Because right now I think it was like cemented over or something. That's just what I heard. But maybe just think about it.
Maybe that's an offline discussion,
Okay,
but I can
that's
add
fine.
it to the wish.
I don't want to get in trouble with ethics, though, make it sound like that was conditional. Just saying. Look, Wallingford, we have a really good EDC. We have a really involved EDC. And Wallingford is good for business, and we're welcoming for business. And I think it's important for all of us to take a step back, and we weren't going to have this money anyway, and to think about that. Do we want to be good for business? Do we want to keep this going? Do we want this hotel to continue to be successful? Do we want to welcome the additional money being spent? I imagine a lot. I mean, you can come back with the numbers, but I imagine a lot of your staff is local. I don't know what not local is. Are they driving down from Hartford? Is that not local? Or, Wallingford, Meriden, Southington, Cheshire? I don't know. North Haven. But I think Wallingford is welcoming to business. I think it's important that we continue in the very same interest and vein that we had when we supported the incentive in the first place. and that we transfer that, not transfer, I'm sorry, that we extend that incentive for the remaining 3 years. And you have stated that you are going to keep it for the next 3 years.
Well, I'd keep it for a lot longer.
Okay, great. Minimum 3
I
years.
have no problem with keeping it.
So then maybe it's clear on the record, if you guys go to sell within the 3 years, don't send anybody back to carry the incentive over.
I mean, you can put in there, we'll return the whatever remaining incentive is, I mean, that's hold our feet to the fire, but I have no problem making that because we'll be here, so. The other thing that's a good advantage, having just closed on the deal, you talk about the local associates, everybody has concerns about that, but they're still there. They all think that we're going to bring a busload of people and they're going to be out of a job. So that didn't happen. So, we could, if the deal hadn't closed, we could say, oh, yeah, we're going to keep all those people. And now they're gone. But, we closed and they're all still there. So, I mean, it's our commitment to keep the local. All we do is, we bring in training and support and programs and that sort of thing. That's what our oversight does. But we don't run the hotel.
And so I'm going to thank you for that, and I'm going to close my statements in saying that I would be one of, I'm sure, of 9 to call you out if you don't get involved in the community like you've stated with the give back programs, and the EDC can direct you to different organizations in town to assist in different interests with the schools or whatnot. But that's really what Wallingford's all about, and you could be a lot of talk like the last guy was, but I'm going to put my vote where the money is right now, and I'm really going to count on that. So thank you.
And I know we didn't distribute it, and for spirit of time, we have these available for afterwards, but we actually brought specific examples with dollar amounts that the foundation has committed. Again, we're not lawyers here. Jim is a very humble guy, but he and his family have committed a lot of money, and those things you are going to see us in the community, and we absolutely welcome you holding us to them.
Thank you. Yeah, actually, could you pass them out now before? So thank you.
All right, while you pass those out, I'm going to move on to Councilor Morgenstein.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, my initial was fairly negative on this whole idea because I was in the audience when Mr. Winston came, but I very well remember, and I think really what happened is we made this deal with a man who was a builder. He was coming to save the white elephant that had been left abandoned and a mess. And from what you're describing, really when it came to being a hotel, he's doing okay, but you have more in that vein of doing things and are bringing in a way of running a hotel that will be better. And so the couple of thoughts that I've had in listening with everyone is that the improvements are part of your Hilton Garden improvements. You are doing this elsewhere. You're making the property more valuable. But the piece that I've taken out of this whole thing, and maybe some more specifics are here in the handout, the thing that did not happen with Mr. Winston was, I am going to be a member of your community. I imagine, sports teams with, Hilton Garden on the back of them. And honestly, as we think about people coming to town for events, and Craig talking about hotels being full, the Twist tournament, the soccer, there is a weekend of the year that you can't even go walk your dog anywhere because all of the soccer players are on all of the fields. So those little soccer guys having your hotel on their shirts, those kind of community involvement activities, to my mind, are the things that allow us and the community to see you and to feel that you are part of the community in a real palpable way. I'll also go with Tom in the hot tub thing. Yeah, not in there. There we go.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I mean, that's what our intent was, and what. What we do is, we do individual contributions to the local community, but quite frankly, what the real impetus behind this was to encourage our local associates to get involved with their community and to give of themselves. And so what we do, rather than just provide additional funds, is we encourage through our training and mentoring for the local associates to get involved in the community and do some fundraising, and then we match that. So if they, let's say they did a program and they raised $1,000, then the Emerald Foundation would match that $1,000 so that we're supporting our associates who are supporting the local community. And that's really the core of those activities.
And that really is what community is. You can come in here and you can run a business all you want, and building a community, can I ask, do you have other hotels yet in Connecticut?
No, that's why I'm excited about coming here. We have some in Massachusetts and Maine and New York, and having lived here, I was very excited about coming.
And that is such a compliment. You know, of course, we're conveniently located, but the fact is, there's plenty of people along the new train line and along the, I-91 corridor, but that is part of, why we're up here as well. We really believe in Wallingford and really appreciate someone appreciating Wallingford as well. So, yeah, again, I think I came in really not sure, but more to the negative, and as the EDC has as well, I would say that I'm convinced and I will support this. Thank you.
Councilor Shortell?
And we get paid by the word, so I figured I would talk. I want to echo what everyone else said, especially Councilor Morgenstein. I would remind her, though, there's an ordinance against walking your dogs in public fields. So just be careful about that. I don't want those little kids getting attacked or anything. But I support this, and I wish you the best of luck with it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Fishbein?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if it's hotel operators, but, I reflect back on when Mr. Winston came before us and, he purchased the property without the tax incentive. So sort of like the same thing. So I don't know if it's just the pattern, because I was making that same argument, dude, you got into the, you bought the property without the reliance upon the tax incentive, and now you're coming to us for a break. So, but the $1 million increase, because so when I'm hearing that a rug gets changed to a rug, it doesn't change the taxable value of the property. So am I to understand that within the next 3 years, there will be a marketable, fair market value increase in this property of $1 million?
And I by no means do I want to have a tax discussion, but in general, to answer your question, what happens is at the end of the year, when you file your different federal taxes, your state income taxes, you also provide your personal property. And what happens is any capital purchases that are invested into the hotel are disclosed. And that essentially is added, and there's a value assessed, and again, I'm sure there's a much more long-winded answer, but at the end of the year, we provide all capital improvements through our taxes that are reported, and then a bill is provided based on the value that those personal property purchases will. And also remember that although I know it seems trivial that maybe it's just small carpet, but it's 139 rooms, so anything we do in this hotel is going to be times 139, which is why that number gets higher, because I realize that thinking of changing the carpet or wall vinyl or what have you, that doesn't seem like a lot, but everything we're going to do is times 139. And also again, to re-stress to the council, we absolutely want this to stay Hilton Garden Inn. We have 9 other ones, and again, I don't want to talk about predecessor, but they didn't have Hilton Garden Inn. We have 9 other ones. We're very comfortable. We know exactly what we're buying. We know exactly what the vision is for this, and we are going to be held to a high standard by the local community. We want this to be a hotel everybody's proud of, but also by Hilton. And Hilton understands that when we replace anything, they're going to have minimum guidelines that we have to follow in order to meet their criteria to keep that name on the building.
Was Mr. Winston following that criteria?
When he purchased the hotel. I mean, excuse me, when he opened the, when he built it.
Okay, but I heard something, there was a comment about a fire pit that should have been installed. And I took that to mean that Hilton may have required that, but that Mr. Winston didn't do certain things.
You know, hotel requirements evolve. What was popular in hotels 10 years ago maybe isn't today, and vice versa. You know, telephones are a thing of the gone.
But was it a requirement?
4 years ago, it probably wasn't required, but it is being required today.
What happens is Hilton, and Marriott and Hyatt, we manage those as well, mostly Hilton. But they have provisions that they can change their requirements, and then it's through their without getting too technical, but it gets into their inspections, and if they decide after you buy the hotel that they want a fire pit, they'll put it in there, and then it'll be a requirement of you to do that.
So am I to understand that the $1 million investment is sort of not voluntary, it's being required of you to bring it up to the Hilton Garden Inn standard?
Right.
Okay, well, I was sort of getting the impression before that, you know, we're doing this because we're good guys. It's that, and I think you are good guys.
Some owners don't do it.
Understood, but then maintaining the name is Hilton Garden, it's ultimately on Hilton whether or not they strip the name.
If you were to keep a property a couple years, you could potentially, if you, pardon my language, rope-a-dope and not do certain things. But again, what we've tried to display to the Economic Development Council and to you through these books and through the longevity of how long we hold on to our hotels, we're just trying to reaffirm to you that that's not an issue with us. You can see how long we have our hotels.
That's a short, there's a lot in the hotel business that do that, but we're operators as well as real estate investors as representing our investor group. But if you don't invest in real estate and you don't make the improvements and you don't take care of the associates and take care of it, you're not going to have a good operating business. So you're doing everything in business to be received by the public and by your associates. They want to work for a company that's taking care of the hotel as well. So, you know, the tax base goes up not just because of the capital improvements, but if we do a better job and attract more guests and attract more food and beverage people, and we can provide a product that people will pay a little bit more for, you're going to improve the value of that hotel through the operations, not just through the capital investments.
Well, I understand, but so first of all, you know, improving a hotel, I've watched plenty of episodes of Hotel Impossible. A lot. So
A lot of what?
Hotel Impossible, I don't know if you ever watched that.
No, I haven't.
Guy who goes in hotels and he critiques them anyway. So, yeah, I'm fully aware of that. But improving the hotel, you know, one of the problems with this property is it's right next to the highway. So when you're drawing people to the hotel, you aren't necessarily drawing people to our downtown, and I understand that, you know, that's part of the argument, but, you know, Meriden right up the road too. So I'm still wrestling with this contract thing. I'm sort of still in the same place, because I've also heard complaints from the competitors in the area. You know, why did Winston get this tax break? We got no tax break when we built our hotels. You know, you got the Courtyard, the Homewood Suites, and there's another one right there, right on the other side of 91. So, okay, well, thank you for answering the questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilor LeTourneau?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, lots been said. We've talked about carpeting, we've talked about hot tubs, fire pits, what a good company you are, and I believe you're a good company, as I said in the beginning. But the fact is, you're here now, and this is going to happen. You're going to put the $1 million in, or whatever you're going to invest over the next year or so. Whether this happens or not, if there's a no vote tonight, you still move on. There's no difference. The only difference is the taxpayers of Wallingford, and that's our job up here, is to try to save as much as we can for the taxpayer. So if we prove this tonight, this is a windfall for you guys. And basically, that's, I don't know how else to say it, it's a windfall. Because you're going to go on, business is going to go on, whether you have it or you don't. You're not going to leave. You're not going to lay people off. You're going to go on. So I don't know if there's enough votes for a no vote on this. There should be. Councilor Fishbein brought up the point of the contract, which I have problems with. But we heard how wonderful you are. We heard from EDC how good you are. And maybe we ought to go at it a different way. There's 354,000. Would you be willing over the next 3 years to return that windfall back to the citizens in Wallingford by donating to different organizations in town? Takes the onus off of us for a no vote, but it puts it on you as the good guys to take and make that commitment to the citizens of Wallingford. Say, we're here, and this is the company we are. We're good guys. We got a windfall, $350,000. So let us spread it out amongst the different organizations throughout town. And if that happens, I could pretty much assure you that you're going to have a lot of people at your hotel staying. And people in this town, in surrounding towns, will know what kind of organization you are. So just something to think about. Just another way to get some taxpayer money back. So it's, I know it's a lot to ask in just a few minutes, and I know it's a decision that that you wouldn't take lightly. But my job up here is the taxpayers' money. So one way or the other, I would like to see it come back to the taxpayer. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So 5 or 6 years ago, the taxpayers driving around that part of town were looking at a site that was beyond dilapidated. There was construction debris all over it. It was far from developed, and there was a concrete skeleton of a building there that was regularly vandalized, and a bit of a police problem, as I seem to recall. And we took a risk, and we passed a tax incentive that was a little bit richer than what our EDC recommended at the time, because Mr. Winston was asking for it, and for him it was the move on the needle that he required to go get his financing to develop that property to what it is today. And the site is quite attractive, and the outside is finished, and we don't deal with vandalism anymore. As a matter of fact, we're as far away from that as we can be. We took a risk, and I think our risk was rewarded. If Mr. Winston had not sold that property, the building would continue in its status quo, and this tax incentive would continue to be in place, and there wouldn't be anything we could do about it. And these gentlemen from Emerald have taken a risk, one that Councilor Fishbein as an attorney would not have advised them to take, in buying a property that came with an incentive that was not a contingency in the contract of purchase. And we are, it's being represented to us that there's going to be $1 million in improvements made. Whether or not that turns into a dollar for dollar improvement in the assessment of the property remains to be seen, but nonetheless, that's work that's going to be done to modernize the property to current Hilton standards. So once again, we're faced with taking a different risk and taking a chance on the Emerald Group that we took on Winston. As has been pointed out, this is money that we were counting on for the next 3 years anyway. And I think it's an opportunity to improve on a situation that we helped occur back in 2014. Any comments from the public before I call the vote? There being none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Takes a while to get back in the swing. Okay. Fishbein,
No.
Laughlin,
Yes.
LeTourneau,
No.
Marone,
Yes.
Morgenstein,
Yes.
Shortell,
Yes.
Testa,
Yes.
Zandri,
Yes.
Chairman Savoni.
Yes.
And the motion passes.
Welcome to Wallingford.